أهلا وسهلا بكم في هذه الحلقة الجديدة من برنامج عالم الطاقة، والتي نأتيكم بها من مؤتمر ومعرض مصر الدولي للبترول إيجيبت 2023، ونتابع فيه إفريقيا دور متنامي في أسواق الطاقة العالمية، والمفوضة الأوروبية للطاقة تخبرنا في لقاء حصري عن خطة أوروبا للتعامل مع تحديات الإمدادات. أدركت أوروبا منذ اللحظات الأولى للأزمة الأوكرانية أن التخلص من إمدادات الطاقة الروسية يمر حتماً عبر القارة الإفريقية. في العادة كانت إفريقيا تشكل نحو 18% من واردات أوروبا من الغاز، لكن هذه النسبة سترتفع الآن وبلا شك بعد الاتفاقيات التي أبرمت بين الطرفين، والتي تتزامن مع توقعات بنمو إنتاج القارة من الغاز بأكثر من 80% بحلول العام 2030. هذا سيجعل إفريقيا التي تشكل نحو 7% من احتياطيات الغاز العالمية الخيار الأمثل لاستبدال نحو خمس إمدادات الغاز الروسي التي كانت تصل إلى أوروبا بحسب وكالة الطاقة الدولية. الأمر لن يقتصر على الغاز، القارة السمراء تشكل كذلك ربع واردات إفريقيا من النفط الخام، ونحو 16% من وارداتها من المنتجات النفطية، وهي نسب مؤهلة للصعود بعد الحظر الأوروبي لواردات النفط الروسية. الاهتمام الأوروبي المتنامي سيترجم إلى نمو الاستثمارات في أنشطة الاستكشاف والإنتاج في القارة الإفريقية بأكثر من الضعف بحلول عام 2025. الهيدروجين يشكل جانباً آخر للاهتمام بالقارة السمراء. إحدى الدراسات كشفت أن إفريقيا قادرة على إنتاج نحو 50 مليون طن من الهيدروجين الأخضر سنوياً، وتكلفة تنافسية بحلول العام 2035. وتضاف إلى ذلك القدرات الهائلة التي تمتلكها القارة في إنتاج الكهرباء من الطاقة المتجددة، فإفريقيا تشكل 60% من أفضل مناطق توليد الطاقة الشمسية على مستوى العالم، وهو أمر قد يفسر إقبال الأوروبيين على إبرام اتفاقيات للربط الكهربائي مع دول القارة. إذن يمكن القول أن القارة الإفريقية تحولت بين ليلة وضحاها إلى شريان حياة لأوروبا التي باتت في أمس الحاجة إلى إمدادات بديلة للطاقة وبأي ثمن. السؤال الأهم اليوم: ما الذي سيحدث لأوروبا في الشتاء القادم، وخصوصاً بعد تمكن أوروبا من أن تكون بمأمن خلال هذا الشتاء؟ سؤال أوجهه الآن للمفوضة الأوروبية للطاقة السيدة كادري سمسم. مرحباً بك وشكراً لحضورك معنا على شاشة سكاي نيوز عربية.
Thank you for inviting me.
دعيني أبدأ إذن وإياك بالسؤال الأهم. أوروبا استطاعت أن تكون بمأمن خلال هذا الشتاء. هناك العديد من الأسباب، كان على رأس المخزونات العالية، استمرار تدفق الإمدادات الروسية من الغاز، وما إلى ذلك. أهم يمكن الشتاء الذي كان دافئا نوعا ما. هل أوروبا بمأمن للشتاء القادم برأيك؟
This is very true that last year was already challenging, but next winter will be as challenging because Europe was very dependent on supplies that we received from Russia. 40% of natural gas that European member states use to heat our homes, to produce electricity, and also for our industrial sites came from Russia. And if you are losing overnight such a dominant player from your markets, this is a challenge. We managed because we had other trusted partners who were able to increase their supplies, both via pipeline but also LNG. So we received more than 50 billion cubic meters more LNG than the year before. And on top of that, pipeline deliveries from Norway, UK, Azerbaijan. And then, of course, this was not enough. We had to cut also our consumption. We did so by 20%. And this was not only that we decided to lower the temperatures, for example, but it was also because we were able to cover some of our electricity demand with renewables. And that meant that we didn't need our gas-fired power plants to work 24/7. And by doing so, right now we are in a situation where our gas price is back to pre-war level, and our underground gas storage is double the volumes than it was same day last year. So we are better prepared for next winter than we were before Russia started its war against Ukraine.
مع ذلك هناك بعض الشكوك حول استمرارية هذا الوضع، خصوصا مع عودة الصين كمشتري رئيسي وإنهاء استراتيجية صفر كوفيد التي ربما أبعدت الصين عن السوق. هذه العودة برأيك كيف لها أن تؤثر على أوروبا من ناحية التنافس على الإمدادات وبالتالي ارتفاع الأسعار؟
That is very true that LNG market is global market, and European buyers have to keep in mind that there is constant competition with Asian markets. And this was also one of the reasons why already last spring we didn't foresee that we will be able to replace Russian natural gas with alternative suppliers 100%. It was always clear that some of lost volumes we have to replace with alternatives, being them renewables, or we just have to prioritize savings. Because globally there are certain limits how fast gas producers can scale up their production. It takes years, but Russian volumes are gone from global market already now.
يقال بأنه الاعتراف بالخطأ من شيم الشجعان. إذا سألتك أين أخطأت أوروبا في استراتيجية الطاقة التي وضعتها ما قبل فبراير 2022؟
A long-term miscalculation was that we were so dependent on one single supplier. And even now when we are reaching out to alternative suppliers, we are very clear we will never end up in a similar situation where we are dependent on one single supplier. We will diversify our supply and we will trust several partners. But there was another mistake from our side. We never regarded our underground gas storage a strategic importance. And actually, because the consumption pattern, we consume in the winter time 40% more gas than the rest of the year. We need storage. And this was owned, several big storage sites were owned by Russian Gazprom, who left the storage empty. And that also created anxiety in our market last year. Now, this is under control. We consider this to be a strategic energy infrastructure, and this is also one of the reasons why by now we have this safety buffer, like we do have also for oil products.
أوروبا حتى تستطيع أن تؤمن ما هي بحاجته من طاقة اضطرت أن تعود إلى الفحم وتتخلى عن بعض الوعود التي كانت قطعتها بخصوص هذا النوع من الطاقة، ليس هو فقط وإنما حتى موضوع الطاقة النووية. هل ترتكب أوروبا خطأ جديد برأيك؟ هل سننظر إلى الاستراتيجية بعين مختلفة؟
The main sector where European industry is still using coal is power generation. But you have to keep in mind that coal-fired power plants and their production is always more expensive than renewables because we are adding the price to the carbon. And that means that at hours when renewables can cover our demand, coal-fired power plants are not working. And our member states, they all keep their promises that there is a certain phase-out date when they will not consume coal anymore. But indeed, they were not able to promise that we will get our energy system running without coal before 2035. So half of our member states are not consuming coal already, and the others, they keep their promise that after 2035 their power generation doesn't need coal anymore.
من المواضيع اليوم مهمة في أسواق النفط والطاقة بكل أنواعه هو موضوع التدخل الذي حدث في الأسواق على مستوى وضع سقف لسعر النفط الروسي والمنتجات النفطية فيما بعد ضمن الديزل. مع وضع سقف للديزل عند $100، البعض يتساءل عن فعالية هذه الإجراءات على المستوى التقني وحتى على مستوى الأساسيات. هل استطعتم أن تقوموا بحساب بالفعل الأمور الإيجابية لهذا الإجراء وبالمقابل المخاطر التي يضعها هذا الإجراء غير المسبوق على الأسواق؟ هل من الممكن أن تتراجع أوروبا عن قرار كهذا في حال كانت المخاطر أكبر على هذا القطاع؟
Europe has reacted to Russian aggression, and we have put in place 9 packages of sanctions because this is our way to send clear signal. If you don't respect international law, it will have consequences to your economy. And as a result, European member states are not buying Russian oil or oil products. This is sanctioned, we don't buy it. But there are other regions globally who are willing to buy Russian oil. They have a problem how they can transport it. And if they want to use insurance from European companies, then they have to negotiate with Russians so that they will receive these oil products with significant discount. So, discount is their way not to sponsor Russian war. But discount also allows Russians still to find means how to transport this oil. Unless price cap, they would have not been any possibility to transport this commodity to the secondary markets.
اليوم تتغير خارطة الطاقة العالمية بوجود شركاء جدد بالعمل من أجل الوصول إلى ما يسمى بخليط طاقة مختلف. كيف ترين خارطة الطاقة العالمية خلال المرحلة القادمة مع تغير الشركاء، مع تغير الطاقة التي يرغب بها العالم؟
We know that we are in the middle of the transition, and there are still millions of people with no access to electricity. We cannot cover this demand with additional fossil fuel installations. Our planet will not survive. So in this regard, I think that this is desirable, that we are investing a lot into research and innovation, and we will create the affordable solutions that are also democratic, because wind and sun are accessible for all the regions across the globe. Not all the nations can produce oil or gas. And they are domestically produced. That means that there is also opportunity in each and every nation across the globe. Right now, Europe is committed to become climate neutral. We will do so by respecting also the national decision-making process. So some of our member states have told us that they will be dependent on nuclear, and this is, well, acceptable. Some of them are willing to invest a lot into CCUS, and by doing so, they can capture the CO2. And this is a solution that could help also other market regions across globe.
شكرا جزيلا لك. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
العالم على مفترق طرق، والتحديات في قطاع الطاقة كبيرة. نقف على هذه التحديات وما هو المتوقع خلال المرحلة القادمة. لورينزو سيمونيلي وهو رئيس مجلس إدارة ورئيس تنفيذي لبيكر هيوز ينضم إلينا هنا. مرحبا بك سيد لورينزو.
Very nice to see you.
سأبدأ بأوروبا. أوروبا هذا العام استطاعت أن تمر حتى الآن بشتائها بشكل يعني نستطيع أن نقول بسلام. بداية كان عندنا مخزونات مرتفعة لأنه كان ما يزال الغاز الروسي يأتي إلى أوروبا. الجو اللطيف نوعا ما، لكن السؤال اليوم ما الذي سيحدث خلال الوينتر أو الشتاء القادم؟
So I think as you look at this last winter, definitely there's been some luck involved. It has been a mild winter, which means gas storage is still at a level that's appropriate. As we go into the next winter, challenges still remain. So it's important that Europe continues to look for alternative energy sources and makes the investments that are necessary, both from a natural gas, LNG, as well as renewables, and continues to expand its energy mix. I think governments are taking the right opportunities to look for alternative sources, and it's going to be challenging still, but I think we're getting more hopeful that they'll be able to navigate through also the next winter.
بالفترة الأخيرة عم نشوف في هجوم كبير على شركات الطاقة الكبرى، إن كان عن طريق الطلب بأن يكون عليهم ضرائب معينة، أنهم لا يقومون باستثمار ما يجنون من أموال في الأماكن الصحيحة، وبالمقابل إن كان هناك عمليات لشراء أسهمها أو حتى توزيعها على الستيك هولدرز. واحدة من الأمور أيضاً بأنه هذه الشركات استفادت أو استغلت بمعنى آخر الوضع الحالي. كيف ترى هذا الهجوم؟
So I think it's obviously a very sensitive issue. And as you look at this industry, you can't look at it at one point in time. You have to look at it from a multiple decades perspective. And the oil and gas industry has been critical in providing energy to the world and has seen difficult times before through losses that have occurred as well as then through profits. And what we're going through now is a cycle where we are undersupplied. So prices have been elevated, and the market means that companies are able to benefit from the higher prices. But they are also investing, and I think it's not fair necessarily to say that they're not investing and continuing to look to the future. So if you look at the multiple decades, I think you've got to look at it from that perspective of how the evolution takes place in the industry, how new technology gets applied, and also the investments that are being made. And then from a profitability perspective, look at it through the cycle versus just looking at one point in time. And at this moment, that's a sensitive topic. But I think if you look at it from a cycle perspective, you'll see that actually it's an industry that is behaving like others.
ولكن لاحظنا نحن بالفترة الأخيرة لبعض الشركات بأنه غيرت الاستراتيجية نوعاً ما من بعد مجموعة من الوعود من هذه الشركات بأنه يكون في تقليل بعملية الاستثمار بالهيدروكربون. كيف ترى هذه الخطوة؟ وخصوصاً أنه في كل لقاء لي معك كنت أقول بأنه العالم يحتاج إلى كل أنواع الطاقة. هل ترى بأنه نوعاً ما تغيرت النظرة اليوم إلى الطاقة واحتياجها وشكل الطاقة المطلوب؟
I read it as an aspect of reality and it being a pragmatic approach towards the needs that the world has for energy. I think what's become known during the last couple of years is that the energy trilemma is real. Affordability, sustainability, and security. And that means we need all forms of energy and we need to invest in all forms of energy. And it's not the fuel source, it's emissions that we need to combat. And so as you look at being able to provide what's necessary for the developing nations, it really is an aspect of continued hydrocarbons, but also tackling the emissions. And I think you're seeing that reality, and it started with also COP27, some of the discussions there. I'm sure they'll continue in COP28. But we're strong believers that it's not about the fuel source, it's about emissions. And we are going to provide the technology that you can bring down the emissions.
ضمن الأمور أيضاً اللي تتحدث عنها دائماً هو أهمية الاستثمار بالطاقة وخصوصاً الغاز والغاز المسال كونه جسر لطاقة أنظف. في المستقبل. هل ترى شهية الاستثمار تتغير؟
So definitely we see natural gas as playing a key role, not just as a transition fuel, but also a destination fuel. And LNG being a key aspect of the evolution of natural gas. As we look at 2030, we see that there needs to be an installed base of over 800 million tons of LNG. And we're seeing an uptick in final investment decisions and also offtake agreements that are being signed. This morning I was reading that Germany is signing an agreement with Oman on LNG. You've seen that Germany's gone to Qatar. You've seen the success of some of the US LNG projects. So we feel very positive that over the course of the next few years, we'll continue to see an expansion of natural gas and LNG. And we are a major participant in providing the liquefaction equipment. So it's always been a lumpy business, but we're seeing a multi-year cycle here of growth, and LNG, natural gas, being a key aspect of the energy mix going forward.
خلال العام الماضي كان هناك تدخل، ومع بداية هذا العام تدخل آخر يعني لم تعتاد عليه أسواق الطاقة. الأول هو وضع سقف لسعر النفط الروسي، وبعدين وضع سقف أيضاً لأسعار الديزل، وهو ربما تحرك لم تشهده الأسواق من قبل على مستوى تقني وأساسي. كيف ترى هذه التدخلات في الأسواق؟
I think again it's a sensitive topic, and obviously geopolitics is involved. At the end, this is a free market and market forces prevail. And when you look at caps or you look at different mechanisms, they need to be looked in the totality of the market forces and what you want as an outcome. We're strong proponents of a free market, and we think that, again, energy should be available for all, and it should be affordable, sustainable, and secure. And we've got to be careful of putting in any implementation of caps and what the end result is. And I think it's still early days, and we've got to see what happens as we go forward.
هل عرقلت الحرب الأوكرانية الروسية وأزمة الطاقة وتبعاتها جهود التغيير المناخي برأيك؟ وهل السنتمنت الشهية للعودة إلى جهود مكافحة التغيير المناخي بدأت تعود من جديد برأيك؟
So it's a very good question, because I think it's actually two sides of the same coin. And when you look at the reality, the conflict showed that the energy ecosystem is complicated, and you can't just switch overnight from one source of energy to the other. And so you've seen an increasing use of coal as an immediate way to react. At the same time, you're continuing to see the development and the investment being made into the energy transition, because people see climate change as being a reality with the events that we saw in Pakistan, the events that we saw also in Scandinavia with some of the flooding, etc. So as you go forward, I think it's going to be in parallel that we need to do something for today, but then continue to invest for tomorrow. And that's why, again, it's not the fuel source, it's the emissions that we need to go after. And there's a lot of technologies today that we can apply to bring down the emissions, and we've got to stay focused on that.
شكرا جزيلا لك سيد لورنزو.
Thank you.
بهذا نأتي إلى نهاية هذه الحلقة من عالم الطاقة. أشكر لكم طيب المتابعة وأترككم بأمان الله وحفظه. اللقاء يتجدد يوم الثلاثاء المقبل. إلى اللقاء.